There's a specific kind of exhaustion you might be feeling right now. Not the exhaustion that comes from working too hard or sleeping too little. Not the burnout that comes from doing too much. This is different. It's a suspension, a pause. Like time itself is slowed down around you while everyone else keeps moving at normal speed. You're not collapsed. You're not broken. You're just ... still, and if you're honest with yourself, you've been still for a while now, waiting, watching, unable to push forward. The way you used to, most people would call this stagnation. They'd tell you to snap out of it, get motivated, take action, but what if this slowdown isn't a problem? What if it's a signal? Because here's what's actually happening. You're not preparing to enter 2026 the way you entered every other year. 22/6 isn't a continuation. It's not the next chapter in the same story. It's not another 365 days added to your timeline. It's a completely different frequency, a different reality structure, a different set of rules, and your system knows this. That's why everything feels suspended. That's why the old strategies aren't working. That's why you can't force yourself forward the way you used to. You're not moving through time anymore. You are being moved to a new timeline. And there's a difference. Moving through time is linear. It's effort-based. It's predictable. You work, you progress, you advance, cause and effect, action and result. But being moved to a new timeline, that's quantized alignment-based. It's invisible until it's complete. You don't get to see the process. You don't get to track the progress. You just feel the suspension, the pause, the stillness, and most people panic in that stillness because they interpret it as falling behind, as wasting time, as missing opportunities. But the slowdown is not a delay. It's a recalibration. It's your entire system updating its operating frequency to match the timeline you're being moved into. Think about it like this. When software updates, your device becomes temporarily unavailable. It can't run programs. It can't perform tasks. It just sits there, updating, and if you interrupted that update halfway through, the system would break. It wouldn't work properly. It would glitch. That's what would happen if you forced yourself forward right now. You'd break the update. You'd enter 2026 with the old frequency, the old operating system, the old identity, and nothing would work. So your system has paused you, not to punish you, not because you're broken, but because the update is happening. And updates can't be rushed. You can't effort your way through a frequency shift. You can't hustle your way into a new timeline. You can't force alignment, you can't. When we allow it, so if you've been feeling this subtle exhaustion, this suspension, this pause, that's not evidence that something's wrong with you. That's evidence that something's updating in you. The old timeline is dissolving. The new one is forming. And you're being held in the space between them until the frequency match is complete. You're not stuck. You're not behind. You're not wasting time. You're recalibrating. And when the recalibration completes, and it will complete, you won't step into 2026, you'll already be there. Because 2026 isn't a date. It's a frequency. And your system is tuning itself to match it right now. Let the slowdown happen. Let the pause continue. Let the suspension hold you. Because it's not keeping you from the new timeline, it's preparing you to receive it. Here's where it gets interesting, because while your external life looks the same routines, same circumstances, same reality, something inside you has already shifted. You feel it. Even if you can't explain it, even if you have no proof, there's a knowing, a quiet recognition that you're not the same person you were 6 months ago, or even 6 weeks ago. But when you look around, nothing reflects that shift. Your life hasn't changed. Your results haven't changed. The people around you still see you the same way. And that creates a strange feeling, like you're living in two realities at once. The internal reality where everything has already shifted, and the external reality where nothing has moved yet. Most people experience this gap and immediately go into self-blame mode. Maybe I'm imagining it. Maybe nothing actually changed. Maybe I'm just fooling myself. But what if that gap, that dissonance between your internal shift and your external reality is not evidence that you're wrong? What if it's evidence that you're in timeline instability? Let me explain. When you shift frequencies, when your internal world updates, your external reality doesn't update instantly. There's a lag time, a period where your old timeline and your new timeline are overlapping. You're standing in both at the same time, and that overlap creates instability, not the bad kind of instability. The quantum kind, that's the space between timelines where your reality hasn't solidified yet, where the old patterns are dissolving but the new patterns haven't fully formed. And in that space, you feel ... strange. You feel like you don't quite belong in your own life anymore. Like the conversations you used to have don't resonate. Like the goals you used to chase don't matter. Like the version of reality you used to believe in doesn't feel real anymore. And instead of trusting that feeling, most people panic. They think something's wrong. They think they're losing themselves. They think they need to get back on track. But you're not losing yourself. You're finding yourself in a different timeline. And the disorientation you're feeling, that's not confusion. That's transition. So, instead of self-blame, what if you approached this moment with curiosity? What if, instead of asking, why hasn't anything changed yet, you asked, what's trying to emerge that I can't see yet? What if, instead of doubting your internal shift, you got curious about why your external reality is taking time to catch up? Because here's the truth, your internal shift is real, more real than anything you can see with your eyes. Your frequency has changed, your identity is updated, your quantum signature has recalibrated, and your external reality is reorganizing itself right now to match that new frequency. But reorganization takes time, not because the universe is slow, but because every element of your reality, every relationship, every opportunity, every circumstance has to either match your new frequency or exit your field. And that sorting process can't be rushed. So right now, you're in the overlap, the in-between, the space where your internal world has already shifted, but your external world is still catching up. And that space requires something most people aren't willing to give: patience without proof. I have to trust the internal shift without needing external validation. You have to believe in the new timeline without seeing evidence of it yet. And that's not blind faith. That's not toxic positivity. That's timeline, instability, awareness. It's the ability to hold the dissonance without collapsing into doubt, to feel the gap without trying to close it prematurely, to trust what you know internally even when nothing around you confirms it. Because the moment you start doubting your internal shift, the moment you decide it wasn't real because your external reality hasn't changed yet, you collapse back into the old timeline. Not because you failed, but because you withdrew your belief before the new timeline could fully form. So if you're feeling this strange dissonance right now, if you feel different inside but your life looks the same outside, doubt it. Get curious about it. Ask, what's reorganizing that I can't see yet? Ask, what's trying to emerge that hasn't surfaced yet? Ask, what timeline am I standing in that hasn't fully materialized yet? Because curiosity keeps you in the overlap. Curiosity keeps the new timeline forming. Curiosity replaces self-blame with wonder. And wonder is the frequency that allows timeline shifts to complete. So stay curious, stay open, stay in the gap without needing to close it. Because the new timeline isn't coming. It's forming around you right now, and your only job is to not collapse it with doubt. And now we arrive at the recognition moment. The moment when you realize that the old models, the ones that got you here, aren't working anymore. Not because you're doing them wrong, not because you need to try harder, but because they belong to a different timeline. Think about it. The effort model, the hustle model, the more action equals more results model. For years, maybe decades, that model worked. You pushed, you got results, you worked harder, you advanced. You put in the hours, you saw the outcome. Effort equaled progress, hustle equaled success, action equaled movement. Until it didn't singled quotes T. And at first when it stopped working, you thought it was you. You thought you lost your edge. You thought you needed to push harder, work smarter, optimize better, so you did. You tried every productivity hack, every new strategy, every optimization technique, and still, nothing moved. Not because the techniques were wrong, but because the entire model had expired for you. You've reached the edge of effort-based reality. And beyond that edge, there's a completely different operating system. One that doesn't run on hustle, one that doesn't reward force, one that doesn't respond to pushing. This new timeline operates on alignment, on frequency, on becoming rather than doing. And your system knows this. That's why the old strategies feel so misaligned now. That's why the hustle feels exhausting rather than energizing. That's why every time you try to force progress, it feels like you're swimming against the current. You're not broken. The model is just outdated for where you are now. And here's the interesting part. You can't go back to the old model even if you wanted to, because something in your identity has already begun loosening. The identity that needed to prove itself through action. The identity that's measured worth through productivity. The identity that believes safety came from control. That identity is dissolving, not because it was bad or wrong, but because it was designed for a different timeline. And you can feel it, can't you? The way the old motivations don't land anymore. The way the goals that used to excite you feel flat now. The way the version of success you were chasing doesn't make sense anymore. That's not loss. That's identity loosening. Your system is letting go of the old operating instructions so it can receive the new ones. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to fight the loosening. They try to grip tighter to the old identity because at least it was familiar. At least it made sense. At least they knew who they were. And when you fight the loosening, you create tension. You create friction. You stay suspended between the old identity and the new one, unable to fully let go but unable to move forward. So the recognition that needs to happen here is this. The loosening is not a problem. It's the process. You're not losing yourself. You're shedding a layer of self that was never meant to be permanent. And underneath that layer is a version of you that doesn't need to hustle. It doesn't need to prove. That doesn't need to force. A version of you that receives. that allows, that trusts. But that version can't emerge until you stop gripping the old one. So if you're feeling that misalignment right now, if the old effort models feel wrong, if the hustle feels exhausting, if your identity feels like it's loosening, this is not evidence that you're failing. This is evidence that you're recognizing. You're recognizing that the old way doesn't work anymore. You're recognizing that the old identity is dissolving. You're recognizing that a new operating system is trying to come online. And recognition is the first step of integration. You don't have to know what the new model looks like yet. You don't have to understand the new identity yet. You don't have to have all the answers. You just have to recognize that the old way has ended. And when you recognize that, when you stop trying to make the old model work, when you stop gripping the old identity, when you stop forcing the old timeline, space opens up. Space for the new to emerge. Space for the new timeline to form. Space for the new version of you to step through. So let the old model stop working. Let the hustle feel misaligned. Let the identity loosen, because that loosening is not loss, it's liberation, and it's making room for what's coming next. Now let's talk about time. Because of the way you've been taught to think about time is keeping you locked in the old timeline. You've been taught that time is linear, that it moves in a straight line from past to present to future, that yesterday leads to today leads to tomorrow. And in that model, if you're not moving forward, you're falling behind. If you're paused, you're wasting time. If nothing's happening, you're stuck. But what if time doesn't actually work that way? What if the linear model of time to clock, the calendar, the sequential progression is just one way of experiencing time, but not the only way? Because here's what happens when you shift timelines. Linear time stops making sense. You can feel it, can't you? The way this year has felt ... different. Not just in events, but in the quality of time itself. Some days feel like weeks. Some weeks disappear in what feels like hours. Some moments stretch and expand while others compress and vanish. That's not you losing track of time. That's you experiencing non-linear time. And in non-linear time, pause doesn't mean stuck. Pause means recalibration. Think about it like this. When you're driving and you need to change lanes, you don't just jerk the wheel and force your way over. You check your mirrors. You match your speed to the flow of the lane you're entering. You wait for the right moment. And during that waiting, during that matching, you're not stuck. You're preparing. That's what's happening to you right now. You're not stuck in time. You're recalibrating your relationship with time itself. The old timeline operated on effort and force, on pushing and driving and making things happen, on controlling outcomes and managing results. But the new timeline you're entering, it operates on alignment and flow, on allowing and receiving and letting things happen, on trusting timing and surrendering control. And you can't force your way from one to the other. You have to recalibrate. You have to let your system adjust to the new rhythm, the new pace, the new frequency of time. This is why everything feels slow right now, why it feels like time has stretched, why it feels like you're suspended while everyone else keeps moving. You're not moving at their speed anymore. You're not operating in their timeline anymore. You've already shifted into a different relationship with time, one where progress isn't measured by external milestones but by internal alignment, one where movement isn't about action but about frequency, one where results don't come from doing more but from being more. And that shift, that recalibration of your relationship with time requires a pause. Not a pause because something's wrong. A pause because something's updating. Your internal clock is resetting. Your sense of timing is recalibrating. Your frequency is adjusting to match the timeline you're entering. And during that adjustment, linear time becomes irrelevant. It doesn't matter that it's been weeks or months since something happened in your external reality. Because in the quantum field, in the space where timelines shift, those weeks or months were not empty time. They were recalibration time, integration time, frequency matching time. And when the recalibration completes, when your frequency fully matches the new timeline, time will speed up again, not back to normal speed. Faster. This is what happens when you exit linear time and enter quantum time. Things that would have taken years in the old timeline happen in weeks. Breakthroughs that would have required months of effort arrive in days. Because quantum time doesn't operate on cause and effect. It operates on resonance and alignment. When you're aligned, time compresses. When you're in resonance, results cascade. When your frequency matched, reality reorganizes itself around you at speeds that defy linear logic. But you can't access quantum time while you're still measuring your progress with a linear clock. You can't enter the new timeline while you're still judging yourself by the old timeline's standards. So the reframe that needs to happen is this. Stop measuring time by what's happening externally and start measuring it by what's happening internally. Are you more aligned than you were last month? Are you more at peace than you were last week? Are you more trusting than you were yesterday? That's movement. That's progress. That's time well spent. Even if nothing in your external reality has changed. Even if no results have shown up. Even if no one else can see the shift. Internal alignment is the only measurement that matters when you're shifting timelines, because external results are just echoes, reflections, delayed responses to what's already happened in your internal field. And right now, your internal field is recalibrating. Your frequency is adjusting. Your relationship with time itself is updating. So let the pause continue. Let linear time become irrelevant. Let the old measurements fall away, because you're not behind. You're not wasting time. You're not stuck. You're recalibrating. And recalibration is not wasted time. It's the most valuable time you'll ever spend, because once it completes, everything moves. Now we get to the core of what's actually been holding you back, and I need you to hear this clearly, because it's not what you think. It's not your limiting beliefs. It's not your childhood wounds. It's not your fear of success or your fear of failure. You've worked on all of that. You've done the therapy. You've healed the trauma. You've cleared the blocks. You've shifted the mindset. And still, something hasn't moved. Why? Because there's a block that exists at a level most people never even know to look for. It's not psychological. It's not emotional. It's not even energetic in the traditional sense. It's a frequency lock, quantum block, a hidden signature in your field that's been operating invisibly beneath everything else. Let me explain. What this actually is, everything in your reality operates on frequency. Your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs, your identity, all of it has a frequency. But beneath all of those layers, there's something deeper, something most people never become aware of. It's your quantum signature, your baseline frequency, the operating code that determines which timeline you're locked into. Think of it like this. Your beliefs are software. Your emotions are programs. Your identity is the user interface. But your quantum signature, that's the hardware. That's the operating system everything else runs on. And if your quantum signature is coded for a specific timeline or a specific range of possibilities, a specific frequency band, then no matter what you change on the surface, you'll keep cycling back to the same reality. You can change your thoughts. You can heal your emotions. You can shift your beliefs. But if your quantum signature hasn't updated, you stay locked into the same timeline. This is the hidden quantum block. And it's why so many people do all the inner work, all the healing, all the manifestation techniques, and nothing fundamentally changes, because they're working at the wrong level. Now, here's what's important to understand. This quantum block is not your fault. You didn't consciously create it. You didn't attract it. You didn't manifest it. It was instilled through ancestry, through environment, through the collective field you were born into, through past experiences that coded your system before you even knew what was happening. It's not a punishment. It's not karma. It's not evidence that you're broken or blocked or doing something wrong. It's just a frequency lock that's been running in the background, keeping you tethered to a specific timeline. And here's the part that changes everything. You can't heal a quantum block. You can't clear it. You can't fix it. You can only become aware of it. And awareness at the quantum level is the dissolution. Not awareness as in understanding it intellectually, not awareness as in analyzing where it came from or why it's there. Awareness as in simply seeing that it exists. Simply recognizing that there's a layer of your reality that's been operating invisibly. The moment you see it, the moment you recognize it, the moment you become aware that you've been operating under a frequency lock, the lock starts dissolving on its own. This is not something you do. This is something that happens through you when you stop trying to fix yourself and start simply observing what's there. So what does this quantum block actually feel like? It's subtle, it's not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It feels like a quiet resignation. A sense that this is just how things are for me. A pattern that repeats so consistently that you stop questioning it and start accepting it as reality. It shows up as the same relationship dynamic with different partners, the same work situation with different jobs, the same financial pattern. With different circumstances, it shows up as getting close to breakthrough, and then something always pulls you back. Not obviously, not dramatically, just ... consistently. It feels like you're doing everything right, but the results never quite match the effort. Like there's an invisible ceiling you keep hitting that no one else seems to see. That's the quantum block. That's the frequency lock. And it's not happening to you because you're cursed or blocked or destined to struggle. It's happening because your quantum signature has been coded for a specific timeline. And until that signature updates, you'll keep experiencing variations of the same reality. But here's the shift that's happening right now. The fact that you're here, the fact that you're hearing this, the fact that these words are landing in your awareness, ... that single quote's the signal that your quantum signature is ready to update. You're not here by accident. This recognition moment is not random. Your system has already begun the dissolution process. The frequency lock is already loosening. The quantum block is already becoming visible. And once it's visible, once you see it, once you recognize that there's been a hidden layer operating beneath everything else, ... you can't unsee it. And you don't need to, because seeing it is the release. Awareness is the dissolution. You don't have to figure out how to fix it. You don't have to heal it. You don't have to clear it. You just have to recognize that it's there, that it's been there, that it's been running invisibly in the background of your entire reality. And now that you see it, it's already dissolving, not because you're doing something to it, but because quantum blocks can't survive in the light of awareness. They only exist when they're invisible. And you just made it visible, so this is not another thing to heal. This is not another layer to work through. This is not another block to clear. This is the moment of recognition that changes everything. Because once you see the frequency lock, you're no longer bound by it. And that means the new timeline, the one you've been preparing for, the one you've been recalibrating for, is now accessible. Not through effort, not through force, not through more healing. Through awareness, and awareness just happened. Now here's why the quantum shift hasn't fully landed in your physical reality yet. It's not because you're not ready. It's not because you haven't done enough work. It's not because your frequency isn't high enough. It's because your body doesn't feel safe yet until your nervous system gives permission. No amount of quantum awareness, spiritual understanding, or frequency work will translate into your 3D experience. Let me explain why. Your nervous system is the bridge, the translator, the gatekeeper between the quantum field and your physical reality. Every shift that happens at the quantum level, every frequency update, every timeline recalibration, every identity upgrade has to pass through your nervous system before it, where it can become real in your life. And your nervous system has one primary directive: survival, not abundance, not manifestation, not transformation, survival. So when a quantum shift tries to come through, when a new timeline tries to activate, your nervous system runs a safety check. It asks, is this safe? Have we survived this before? Do we have the resources to handle this? And if the answer is no, if your body doesn't recognize this new frequency as safe, your nervous system blocks it. Not consciously, not intentionally, but automatically. Because from your nervous system's perspective, the unknown is dangerous. Change is a threat. New timelines are unproven territory. This is why you can know something intellectually, believe it spiritually, feel it energetically, and still not experience it physically. Your nervous system is the gatekeeper, and it hasn't opened the gate yet. Think about how many times you've been on the edge of a breakthrough, and then suddenly felt exhausted, or foggy, or unmotivated, or even physically sick. That wasn't self-sabotage. That wasn't resistance. That wasn't your subconscious blocking you. That was your nervous system saying, this doesn't feel safe yet. We need more time. And here's what most people get wrong. You cannot think your way past your nervous system. You cannot affirmation your way past it. You cannot even visualize your way past it, because your nervous system doesn't speak the language of the mind. It speaks the language of the body. It doesn't care what you think about the shift. It cares how your body feels about the shift. Does your body feel safe? Does your body feel grounded? Does your body feel resourced enough to hold this new reality? If the answer is no, the gate stays closed. So here's the shift that needs to happen. Your body has to lead, and your mind has to follow, not the other way around. Most people try to drag their body into a new reality with their mind. They think if they just believe hard enough, visualize clearly enough, raise their frequency high enough, their body will catch up. But it doesn't work that way. Your body moves first. Your nervous system gives permission first, and only then does the quantum shift fully land in your physical experience. So how do you create nervous system safety? Not through effort, not through force, not through doing more inner work, through regulation, through presence, through simple, consistent signals that tell your body, we're safe right here, right now. It's the small things that your nervous system responds to, not the big spiritual practices or the intense healing sessions. It's the deep breath you take when you notice tension. It's the pause before you react. It's the moment you put your hand on your chest and feel your heartbeat. It's the walk you take without your phone, the glass of water you drink slowly, the 5 minutes you spend just sitting, doing nothing, being nowhere. Your nervous system doesn't need grand gestures. It needs micro moments of safety, consistent signals that say, we're not in danger, we're not running, we're here. And when your nervous system starts to feel safe, when it starts to regulate, when it starts to trust that this new frequency is survivable, that's when the quantum shifts start landing in your physical reality. Not because you made them happen, but because you stopped blocking them with an activated nervous system. This is why rest is so important right now. This is why slowing down feels so necessary. This is why your body has been asking for softness, for ease, for gentleness. Your nervous system is preparing to hold a completely new reality, a new frequency, a new timeline, and it needs to feel safe enough to do that. So if you've been pushing, if you've been forcing, if you've been trying to think your way into the new timeline, stop, come back to your body, come back to regulation, come back to safety. Let your body set the pace. Let your nervous system give permission. Let yourself feel safe before you try to leap, because the quantum shift is real. The new timeline is forming. The frequency update is happening. But it can only fully land when your body says yes, and your body doesn't say yes through thinking. It says yes through feeling safe. So feel safe, regulate, ground, rest, and let your nervous system catch up to where your frequency already is. Because when it does, the gate opens and everything moves. Here's something that will completely change how you see what's happening right now. What if the resistance you're feeling isn't blocking you from the new timeline? What if it's actually the signal that you're standing right at the threshold of it? Most people treat resistance like an enemy, like a wall, like evidence that they're not ready or not worthy or not aligned enough. But resistance doesn't show up randomly. It doesn't appear when you're far from something. It appears when you're close. Think about it. When do you feel the most resistance? When you're scrolling, procrastinating, avoiding? No. When you're in avoidance, you feel numb, comfortable, disconnected. But when you're about to actually do the thing, when you're about to make the call, send the message, hit publish, have the conversation, that's when the resistance floods in. That's when the fear shows up. That's when the doubt screamed. That's when your nervous system activates and says, wait, are you sure about this? And most people interpret that as a stop sign, as evidence they're not ready, as proof something's wrong. But it's not a stop sign. It's a proximity signal. Your system is saying, this is real now. This is actually about to happen. We're at the threshold. And every threshold has a guardian. Every doorway has a final test. Every shift has a point of no return, not to keep you out, but to make sure you're ready to cross. Because once you cross a threshold, you can't go back. The old timeline closes behind you. The old identity dissolves. The old reality becomes inaccessible, and your system wants to make sure you're certain that you're committed, that you understand what you're about to cross into, so it creates resistance. It activates fear, it generates doubt, not to stop you, but to prepare you, to make you pause and check, am I ready for this? And here's the beautiful part. The resistance isn't trying to keep you from the new timeline. It's trying to ensure you don't cross prematurely, because if you cross before you're ready, before your nervous system feels safe, before your frequency is stable, before your identity has updated, you'll either collapse back into the old timeline, or you'll enter the new one but not be able to hold it. So the resistance is actually protection. It's a final recalibration moment, a readiness check. And when you stop fighting it, when you stop seeing it as an enemy, when you recognize it for what it actually is, it transforms into a doorway. You see, resistance and readiness feel almost identical in the body. The activation, the intensity, the charge, it's the same sensation. The difference is in how you interpret it. If you interpret it as something's wrong, I'm blocked, I'm not ready, it becomes a wall. If you interpret it as I'm close, I'm at the threshold, this is the final check, it becomes a doorway. Same sensation, different interpretation, completely different outcome. So if you're feeling resistance right now, if you're feeling blocked, if you're feeling like something's in your way, ask yourself, what am I close to? What timeline is trying to activate that my system is doing a final safety check on? What version of reality is right on the other side of this resistance that I'm being prepared to enter? Because I promise you, the resistance is not random. It's not evidence you're stuck. It's not proof you're not meant for this. It's evidence you're right there, right at the edge, right at a threshold, and your system is just making sure you're ready to walk through. So instead of fighting the resistance, instead of trying to push past it, instead of spending more energy trying to clear it, just see it, recognize it, acknowledge it. Oh, I'm at a threshold. This resistance is the guardian. This fear is the final check. And the moment you recognize it that way, the moment you stop resisting the resistance, it stops being a wall, and it becomes what it always was, a doorway. You don't have to overcome it. You don't have to defeat it. You don't have to push through it. You just have to recognize what it is and walk through, because the threshold is not keeping you out. It's inviting you in, and you're already standing right at it. So what does it actually feel like when the shift happens? When the quantum block dissolves? When the frequency lock releases? When the new timeline activates? Because I know you're wondering. You're listening to all of this and thinking, but how will I know? What's the sign? What should I be looking for? And here's the thing. It's not what you expect. It's not dramatic. It's not a lightning bolt. It's not a sudden rush of energy or clarity or motivation. It's so subtle that most people miss it completely. The release feels like nothing. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it feels like the absence of something that was always there, but you didn't know it was there until it was gone. It's like when you've been clenching your jaw for hours without realizing it, and then suddenly you notice, and you relax, and there's this softness, this space, this ease you didn't even know you were missing. That's what quantum release feels like. A quiet exhale, a softening, a letting go of a tension you didn't know you were holding. It doesn't announce itself with fanfare. It doesn't come with confirmation. There's no "this is it" moment that makes you certain. It just happens. Quietly, in the background, and you notice it later. You notice that something that used to bother you doesn't anymore. You notice that a thought loop that used to cycle doesn't cycle anymore. You notice that a trigger that used to activate you just doesn't. And you didn't do anything specific to make it stop. You didn't work on it. You didn't clear it. You didn't heal it. It just dissolved on its own. That's the felt sense of release. It's not about seeing new things appear. It's about noticing what's no longer there. The heaviness that lifted. The urgency that faded. The pressure that dissolved out. And here's why this is so important to understand. If you're waiting for a big sign, if you're waiting for external proof, if you're waiting for your reality to dramatically shift before you believe the release happened, you'll miss it. Because the release happens first in your internal field, in your body, in your nervous system, in your frequency. And only later, sometimes days, sometimes weeks, does your external reality reorganize itself to match. But the release itself, it's quiet, it's internal, it's felt, not seen. So how do you know it's happened? You stop asking if it's happened, you stop checking, you stop monitoring, you stop scanning for evidence. Because when the block is truly released, there's nothing left to check for. The question itself dissolves. It's like when you have a headache. You keep noticing it, tracking it, wondering when it will stop. And then hours later you realize, wait, when did that go away? I don't even remember when it stopped. That's how quantum release works. You don't release by forcing it. You don't release by visualizing it. You don't release by trying to feel a certain way. You release by letting awareness do its work. And awareness works quietly, invisibly, without permission. The moment you became aware of the quantum block, the moment you recognized the frequency lock, the moment you saw the hidden pattern, the release process started. And it's been happening this entire time, quietly, subtly, in the background of your awareness. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to meditate harder. You don't have to affirm more. You don't have to clear more layers. You just have to let it unfold. And one day soon, maybe tomorrow, maybe next week, you'll notice that something shifted. Not because you made it shift, but because it was always going to shift once you saw it. So don't wait for the big moment. Don't wait for the dramatic confirmation. Don't wait for your external reality to prove that the release happened. Just notice the softening. Notice the ease. Notice the space where tension used to be. Notice what you're no longer worried about. Notice what you're no longer obsessing over. Notice what you're no longer gripping. That's the release. It's not loud. It's not obvious. It's not dramatic. It's the quiet absence of what used to be there, and it's already happening. There's one final thing that needs to dissolve before the new timeline fully activates, and it's the hardest one to let go of because it's been with you the longest. It's the urge to fix yourself. That constant, quiet belief that there's something about you that still needs to be improved, healed, upgraded, or changed before you're ready for what's coming. The feeling that you're close, but not quite there yet. That you need one more breakthrough, one more clearing, one more shift before you're finally ... enough. This is the most persistent loop of all, because it disguises itself as growth, as self-awareness, as spiritual evolution, but it's not. It's interference. And it keeps you locked in a cycle where you're always becoming but never arriving, always healing but never healed, always on the path but never at the destination. Here's what needs to be recognized. You're not broken. You never were. There's nothing missing. There's no final piece you need to find. There's no last layer you need to clear before you're allowed to enter the new timeline. The new timeline isn't waiting for you to become someone else. It's waiting for you to stop trying to become someone else. Because the version of you that enters the new timeline isn't the healed version or the finally ready version or the upgraded version. It's just you as you are right now, without the self-improvement project, without the endless inner work, without the need to prove you've done enough. This is non-interference trust. It's the ability to trust that you don't need to manage your own unfolding, that you don't need to control your own transformation, that you don't need to fix your way into readiness. And it's terrifying because the fixing urge gives you something to do. It gives you a sense of control. It makes you feel productive. But what if you don't need to do anything? What if the shift is already happening and the only thing blocking it is your belief that you need to make it happen? What if the only thing standing between you and the new timeline is your refusal to stop interfering with your own process? Think about it. How much time have you spent trying to fix yourself? How many modalities, techniques, healers, courses have you tried? And I'm not saying that work was wasted. I'm saying it brought you here, to this moment, where the fixing can finally end. Because at some point, the self-improvement loop has to complete. At some point you have to let yourself just ... be. Not because you've reached perfection, but because perfection was never the point. The point was always to realize you were never broken in the first place. So if you're still in the loop, if you're still looking for the next thing to heal, the next layer to clear, the next breakthrough, I'm giving you permission to stop, not because you're done, but because there was never anything to finish. You're not a project, you're not incomplete, you're not a work in progress that needs more work. You're whole, you're ready, you're here. And the new timeline doesn't need you to be anything other than what you already are, so stop fixing, stop improving, stop trying to become. Just be, and trust that your unfolding knows what it's doing. Trust that the shift is happening, without your management. Trust that you don't need to interfere with your own transformation. Because the moment you stop trying to make yourself ready, you realize you already were.